So now that I've graded some of the bigger names at the wide receiver position in the 2017 NFL draft, I'm moving on to the next position, which is the tight end group. And this video is just me giving a little background, an explanation as to how I will ultimately be grading these tight ends for the 2017 NFL draft. Now, first things first is there's been talk by me previously about how good the running back class is, how good the defensive back class is, both at corner and safety this year, and I stand by that. Excuse me, how good of a draft this is for pass rushers, and that's also true as well. But another area of strength in this draft is the tight end class. This is a really, really good tight end class. Now, granted, to me, there are two guys that are a clear cut above the rest, and David Njoku and OJ Howard. Um, they look like they could be stars, but you still have several other guys that could be potential NFL starters and good ones at that and contributors. And it's funny, for so many years, as the NFL has increasingly placed an emphasis and importance on the tight end position, college football wasn't really matching up to that in terms of the athletes and players they produced at the position. It was still a lot of limited skill pass catchers and primarily run blockers, those type of guys, the big plotting, run blocking, pass protecting tight end that might occasionally catch a ball in a play action pass or might be a guy you'd throw something to over the middle or in the flat in the end zone. Um, the college game wasn't matching the NFL reality. But now you see this year where the tight end class is really, really good that's being produced by college football, and it's matching the need of the NFL and the direction of the NFL. And this part causes some concern, I think, in terms of this tight end class because it is really good. But you look at recent years, there have been plenty of tight ends. While you get some young guys like a Jordan Reed as an example that play and show out well, you have other young guys like an Eric Ebron that really don't. And maybe that's just more indicative of the lack of overall talent at the position and teams reaching for the need in case of maybe an Eric Ebron. But I don't think that should scare teams away from investing first round and even day two picks at the position because this is a really, really good class. Now, you probably still can get contributors and talent in day three, and that is true too. That is the level of talent and depth of this class. But if you're looking for guys that can make an impact as a pass catcher and make an impact early, you want to get those guys in the first three rounds of this draft because there are plenty of guys there. Now, in terms of the tight end position, in general, kind of what I value are the guys that can line up all over, the guys that you can play as an inline tight end. You can put them in the slot. You can play them out of the backfield. You can line them up out wide. I love those tight ends that bring that versatility that you can deploy all over the place in the passing game. I would like those tight ends that are a bigger wide receiver type. It's nice to have that guy who could be an intermediate and red zone type of target, that safety valve security blanket for a quarterback, especially a young quarterback, and you can naturally get that out of a talented tight end. I don't care as much about whether or not the fact the dude can be an effective run blocker or pass protector, because I'm going to tell you right now, unless you are a close to championship contending team and you need another potential blocker on the line in certain formations that you like to run, if you are drafting a tight end and basing a large share of your grading off of their blocking ability and you draft them anywhere in the first three rounds, then you are stupid. And that is just plain and simple. You're not doing it right. You draft these guys early because they can be impact players and difference makers as pass catchers, not as blockers. Those are the type of guys that I care about more. There's a place for those role players. There's a place for that traditional type of tight end. But in today's NFL, you want those guys that could be like a glorified bigger wide receiver. In terms of the grading categories, I've got 10 of them. Size, quickness / speed, hands, route running, separation. Blocking ability is one of those things, and I score it, but I'm pretty lenient in the scoring because at the end of the day, how important is it that they be an effective blocker? You could say, well, they need to be able to run block. Yeah, sometimes that's true. But again, it shouldn't prevent you from taking somebody because they're not the strongest blocker. You can teach that. You can coach that. I want those guys that have that natural pass catching ability. Uh, Catch radius, the run after the catch, durability, intangibles. In terms of the things that I think are the most important at the tight end position, I look at hands as being a big one because, again, as a kind of intermediate target, that security blanket safety valve for quarterbacks, in particular young quarterbacks, you need that reliable third down red zone type of target that when you throw the ball his way, he's going to bring it in. So having a guy with really solid hands and a guy with a big catch radius, I think is incredibly important at the position. I think quickness and the ability to separate is more important than necessarily big time speed. But if you get a tight end that has some short area explosiveness for his size, for his position, and he can figure out ways to get open, it just opens up the potential of possibilities of what you can do in your offense based off of what you can do with these guys at the tight end position. Um, so when I think about that, size is important, but it's not the be all end all, especially for so many of these guys. You probably get away with some of the guys in this draft, like the Evan Ingrams, like the Gerald Everetts, that maybe tip the scales at 230, 235 pounds. Because if anything, so often is the case, you're going to be using them out of the slot and out of the backfield and maybe even out wide as a bigger wide receiver type of type. And they're going to be matched up against smaller corners and safeties and slower linebackers. You can get away with that, maybe more than you could in the past. Again, this is a really good tight end class. Really, really good. And I've been impressed when I've been watching on film, how good some of these guys are, especially in the cases of Njoku and Howard. I was really, really impressed by them, and you'll see that in my grading of them. Those are two guys to me that, frankly, should be off the board within the first 20 picks of the draft. A good tight end class this year. If you're a team in the first few rounds of the draft and you're looking for help at the position and a guy that could be a difference maker, this is the year you want to invest. This is the year that you want to get in on. Because if you don't, you'll probably live to regret it.